All right, welcome into Sit Start Polls Live. Dave Paulzine alongside Eric Paulzine, and it's here, the first week of the NFL season. Eric, are you excited?
Oh, yeah. Finally made it here. So, yeah, you ready for this game tonight?
Yeah. I mean, we got Patriots and Chiefs coming at you in about a half hour, 40 minutes. Should be a pretty good game. I mean, both teams were, very successful last year. The Chiefs, kind of a new look, kind of this little bit of the old, little bit of the new.
Kareem Hunt, we'll see what he does. Tyreek Hill. It's going to be an interesting game there.
And New England, a lot of questions in their backfield and at their skill positions, but
that Malcolm Mitchell injury that just broke today, he's out for the year, I guess. And so that'll be interesting to see where Chris Hogan, if he picks up the workload like everyone's predicting, that certainly helps his case.
But with New England, they always seem to be able to find guys, plug them into their system, and they, have fantasy guys that come out of nowhere. I mean, who was Julian Edelman? Who was Wes Welker?
It's very true.
They get these guys. I mean, in actuality, who was Rob Gronkowski? Like, these guys for New England, they just come into a system and they perform and they become fantasy elite players. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody from New England takes that step with the opportunity tonight.
And that's a very good point. So I had a draft this past weekend, and I ended up with Tom Brady in the 5th round.
Wow, good value.
Yeah, so because of that, I kind of wanted to get more New England Patriots players.
Okay.
And I ended up with Rex Burkhead and James White in pretty late rounds there. So I'm kind of wondering which one I should start, or should I start Paul Perkins?
Well, you did put a poll out. Which Patriot player will score the most points tonight? 2 of those guys were in that poll from about 9 hours ago. You had Chris Hogan, Mike Gillislee, Burkhead, and then James White.
Yep.
And you don't have Gillislee, so
I do not.
He was the highest guy at 35. Hogan was the next highest guy. Your 2 guys were the lowest.
Yep.
Burkhead at 21, White at 18.
Yeah, so it's pretty. I mean, I can see White getting a lot of touches here, but
I can too. For some reason, people are forgetting about James White. I think he's still going to probably be the 3rd down guy. I mean, he's good in pass pro, and Brady trusts him. So, I mean, I would be shocked if he's not getting a load of reps.
It doesn't seem like a Gillislee game, so I was surprised about the results of that. I had Burkhead in there originally. I'm going to switch to James White. We're putting him in the starting lineup.
Might have to give you the homer helmet if it doesn't work out.
So just a little lineup.
Okay.
Teaching point here. So I had James White. Originally, I had Paul Perkins in my flex because he played Sunday night, the latest game.
Yep.
So I switched that out with James White now, and that's the earliest game. You never want to have your flex position be one of the earliest games. You want it to be your latest game possible, just in case injuries pop up or anything that you don't limit your moves that you can make.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Then if you're out of running backs, you can always sub in a receiver into that flex or a tight end in case one of those running backs or receivers get banged up.
Yep.
Jumping into another poll that we had here, which player will score the most points tonight on Thursday Night Football? You got a lot of flack for this poll because you didn't have Rob Gronkowski on the list.
No duh, he's going to be the one that's going to score the most points, most likely. I mean, come on.
But out of the 4, you had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, and Brandon Cooks.
Yep.
So currently with 480 votes in the poll so far, Cooks is leading with 37%.
His went up, too, since that Milton lose, too. So take that for what it's worth.
The second guy was Hunt for Kansas City, and then Kelce was at 22.
A little side note for them, too. C.J. Spiller got dropped. So
he did, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of carries that should be had for Mr. Hunt in the backfield.
So he's a guy that I'm looking forward to watching the most, I think, personally, myself. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, this game, it should be interesting. There's a lot of survivor polls or anything like that. Are you in? Are you playing anybody, either one of these 2 teams in this game at all for a lock or anything?
For a survivor, no, not really. Just I could possibly see the Chiefs winning. It's a Thursday night game. Those are a little bit harder to predict. It's a little bit slower normally, less scoring, but it is the first week. So, I mean, that's a little bit different. They've had a lot of time to prepare. But, yeah, no, I didn't go with the Patriots for a survivor pool pick. I did choose them to win and pick them, though. What about you?
I did not stay away I stayed away from this one, in the Survivor. We'll get to some Survivor picks later on in the show. This one right now, it's Patriots anywhere from, looks like 8 to minus 15.
Yeah.
So,
and what, do you have the point total there?
I've seen the lowest is 47.5. The highest is 50. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, about 25 aside, give or take. I don't know if it gets that high scoring. We'll see. Usually defense is ahead of offense, but who knows?
Surprised me. So.
I mean, if you give Belichick all offseason to prepare for a team, who knows what he's going to come out with?
Yeah.
And the same thing with Kansas City. Andy Reid, really good offensive mind too. So I mean, there may be some points in this game that's different from maybe a defensive battle that you're usually used to seeing in the first game.
Definitely. Maybe the two top tight ends playing in this game too. So
yeah, that should be fun. Yeah, both guys like to utilize the tight end. There's some second string tight ends too that might be sneaky value in this roster.
Yeah. If one of them goes down again.
Well, you got Dwayne Allen, who's going to get some reps, and if Allen's not performing, then it's Hollister from New England, and then you've got Demetrius Harris, the counter to Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
So that
our preseason guys,
some of the good backups at tight end are in this game. Yeah. So it should be interesting to watch. That'll get kicked off in about 35 minutes, and the season will be going.
Yeah.
But what's kind of your strategy looking at the Thursday night slates? What do you like to do? How do you like to play them? Do you like to play a lot of guys? What's kind of your strategy when it comes to Thursday nights?
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit, but usually Thursday night games are a little bit slow, lower scoring and slower paced. So I normally like to stick away from the Thursday night game. I do like to play the Thursday through Monday slates. I profit more on those slates, and I think that's just because a lot of the times people are going to force themselves to play people in Thursday's games just because they want to watch them play, and it's the start of the week and they're excited to play them. So normally I'll tend to stick away from those games. Maybe play one player if it's too easy to pass up, but that's generally the strategy there.
Yeah, do you like putting a stack on just to have a stack lineup for Thursday night just in case something does go off where you have a 35, 38 game?
Yeah, definitely. You throw one lineup in there and hope for the best there. You could easily do that with Brady and like Hogan and White or something.
Well, I mean, maybe with that's something where you go even contrarian.
Oh, yeah,
maybe that's a play where you play Alex Smith.
Yeah, definitely.
Stack them with, I don't know, Hill or...
I'd probably Kelce.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah. And then maybe give some back, maybe a James White or Rex Burkhead to kind of
on
go
the other side.
That.
Yeah,
go back.
That's not a bad idea there.
So I mean that should be interesting. We'll see how it goes. But let's jump into this slate. We're going to kind of stay away from this Thursday night game. The kickoff's getting ready to go. We kind of talked about a little bit and who we kind of like in that game. But we'll jump into the quarterback position. Eric, who are some of the quarterbacks that you are looking at here in Week 1?
So most of all, the quarterbacks that were in the top tier really didn't have that best of matchups. So I'm kind of sticking away from them. And normally I do like to go for the lower-end quarterbacks and lower-end quarterbacks that have lower-end stacks as well that you can do. So the first one would be Marcus Mariota. He's going against Oakland. And I also like Derek Carr, who's going against Tennessee, though. So they're playing each other. This game's supposed to be high-scoring. It's a game that I want to stack. And Oakland last year was one of the worst passing defenses, so that's what I like to see. And, yeah, Derek Carr, that offense is high-powered. They block well, and the weird thing about it is they played Week 3 last year. They both kind of struggled, but again, that was Week 3 last year. They were still kind of trying to establish themselves in their offense, and they both got a lot better as the year went on. So I like those two.
Yeah, those are two really trendy picks in the AFC. A lot of people picking the Texans to win the AFC South, and a lot of people have Oakland as a pretty good favorite in the AFC West. So that's going to be a great game just in general.
Yeah,
hopefully it's high scoring. We'll see. Going down that list, I like Carr. I think Carr and Mariota, they're guys who are primed to have big years, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. But those are pretty safe picks in the mid-range value. If you kind of look, looking at it, Mariota and Carr basically the same on DraftKings as they are on FanDuel. You got to remember on FanDuel you have a $60,000 budget.
Yeah, it's a little bit higher.
DraftKings you have $50,000, so it might look a little different. I kind of went through the numbers and compared. Not a lot of different value. If you looked on FanDuel, you're going to get some of the higher-end receivers like A.J. Green and Antonio Brown at a little bit better market share for your budget. But other than that, it's only a 3% gain.
The running backs were a lot different, I saw.
Not really. I mean, the only real when you're dividing it up by the total, nothing was higher than 3%.
Okay.
Either way.
Nice. Good.
So, I mean, there's not a lot of variation in the cost this week. So, I mean, the one place I noticed it was at the high-end receiver mark, so maybe take a look at some of those guys. If you're on FanDuel, they had a better value to so their salary was lower compared to what their total value was.
That makes a lot of sense, and I just don't see a lot of people going towards those players this week, so that'd be a nice contrarian play, especially on FanDuel.
And mostly, when I was looking at those numbers, most of the salary values were with FanDuel this week.
Okay.
So there wasn't too many plays on DraftKings where you had better value on DraftKings than you did on
Vice
FanDuel.
versa.
Right.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense.
Going back to the quarterbacks, who else are you looking at?
So for some reason, Carson Wentz is priced at $53K on DraftKings, and he's going against a poor defense. He has new targets, and they're pretty good targets. Torrey Smith and Alshon Jeffrey. what I think it was last week, week 4, he had 18 points against them. And in that game, there was a 49-point total in that game. So, I mean, I would believe that more of that's going to come. And so I kind of like Wentz and maybe stack with those two. Also, Zach Ertz is kind of cheap, so you go with him. Another quarterback I like even on the lower end is Josh McCown, and that's kind of surprising. He's going against the Buffalo Bills. We know that they lost their 2 top cornerbacks, and last year he didn't play. Ryan Fitzpatrick played against the Bills in Week 17. He actually had 16 DK points. Last year when Josh McCown started, he averaged 17.5 DK points. So, I mean, his floor at least has to be at 15 points. Lock it in there. It's not a bad play for you against a defense that's not going to be that good this year.
A name you don't have on that list that I thought was a very interesting salary was Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is sitting at $7K in DraftKings. He's the 5th most priced quarterback. Typically, he's 1 or 2 behind Brady or Breeze. Last year, at the end of the year, here are his last 4 totals. 7-7, 7-9, 8-2, and 8-1 were his salary.
So he's priced down.
A lot of guys are worried about Rodgers playing against Seattle. Last year, they played against Seattle. Rodgers, 18 of 23, 246 in the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 21 fantasy points on DraftKings.
And that's really good.
That's a good return. That's three. That's a
nice
points
play.
Right. Yeah, so Rodgers might be a guy that you're looking at. I mean, that you normally wouldn't get at that price, and you can maybe pair him up with some of the higher end Packer options that you're not going to be able to do later on in the year.
Adams is pretty low for salary as well, so is Cobb. But going along with that, Russell Wilson is priced $100 cheaper than him. A lot of people are going to gravitate towards him because they think Packers it's a lot worse. Obviously it is, but like you said, those are some good stats right there, and this is the highest point total game on the whole slate. So I like that call going with Rodgers. Yeah, I can agree with that. Another person that we didn't touch on is...
And Rodgers was the highest scoring quarterback last year on DraftKings for the whole season average-wise. So, that, like you were saying, when you look at the offensive position ranks on DraftKings, Rodgers has that ugly-looking red 6 next to it.
That doesn't really mean anything, but people are scared.
Right, people get scared. And Wilson's got a nice little green 32 on it. With the salary being...
that close.
$100 difference. I think you're right. It wouldn't surprise me if Wilson had higher ownership than Rodgers, which is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess Wilson has the rushing ability, but he didn't really do that too much.
So does Rodgers.
Exactly. So not a bad call there. Maybe a little bit of a homer helmet, but it makes complete sense.
But, I mean, if you're going with Aaron Rodgers, is it really a homer pick?
No, that's very true.
So since we talked a little bit about quarterbacks, let's jump back and talk about stacks. What are you kind of what teams are you going to try to stack here?
Yeah, so I touched on a little bit. The 2 that I want to stack the most are going to be Tennessee versus Oakland. That's a 50-point total. And then you also have Carolina versus San Francisco. That's a 47.5 point total right now. They just both seem attackable and defenses that aren't very good. That's normally what I like to go with. You could go with Green Bay versus Seattle. I didn't really want to do that too much because the players coming back that I wanted to stack with, I didn't really like it too much. What about you? Did you have anything else? Or do you agree, disagree with those?
I mean, yeah, I could see that Tennessee-Oakland game, being a pretty high scoring affair. I think that might be, a pretty good, game to stack. We're going to talk about player stacks a little bit later, but a team you didn't mention in there was Atlanta. They're one of the higher priced stacks, but I mean they're probably gonna get you points if you start
out for you.
If you start Ryan, Julio, and Freeman, you're gonna get good floor points. Yep. So it might be a good cash stack. But you're gonna run into a situation where you're gonna have to find some value if you want to hit on a contest. You're gonna have to hit some low players to get all those guys in under your salary.
And this is a week where the pricing is kind of spread out for those lower options because they got it out a month before the season started. So we'll touch on some of those lower options in a little bit here as well.
So let's jump into the running backs. Who are you then stacking in any of those games? Do you have any running backs that are going to fit into your stacks?
So like some of the players that I want to stack with, Devontae Freeman, like we just touched on. I'm going to stack the Jets a little bit, so I'll have some.
The Jets?
Yeah.
The New York Jets.
Do we have the chance?
I don't know if they're going to be doing too much of that, but you kind of hope they are on Sunday.
I think so. I mean, the 2 worst teams in the league are facing up against each other. What more can you ask from a DFS standpoint? But yeah, I like that.
Yeah, Bear fans are rejoicing. You just said that their team is not one of the top 2 worst teams.
Not with Mitchell Trubisky back there in week 6. He's going to be firing.
Okay.
Week 6.
Week 6. Okay.
But we got a soundboard now, so we're trying to implement it a lot more.
Yeah, if there's any drops you want to hear, let us know. We'll get them on the soundboard.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff over here. Yeah, so I like Bell against Cleveland. He had 37 DK points against them last year. And
they don't have a lot of depth at running back, so it sounds like he is going to go, and he's going to go a lot. He might go over 30 carries this week, and if you get Bell at 30 carries, I mean, you definitely
what he did.
You definitely got to play him as cash.
Yep, I think he's the cash option here for sure. He'd probably be 40% owned in cash plays, but you kind of got to go with it.
And I think in some of your GPPs, you might have to have him in there just because if he goes off, he gets 30 touches. He rushes for 150, catches 50, and scores a couple touchdowns. You don't have him, you're in deep trouble.
Yep.
In your contest because you're going to be behind.
Yep.
A guy like Bell takes care of two salaries, essentially, on your running back position.
That's how I do like to look at it as well, especially if you can find a lower option player to put him with. So going back to Freeman, though, the MVP of the Super Bowl last year.
Was going to be, yeah.
That's right. So, I mean, he's going against Chicago, which they gave up the third most rushing yards at the end of the season last year, the last 3 games. So, and they gave up a lot of touchdowns, too, in the last 3 games. And I think, Freeman, he can catch the ball in the backfield, and I believe he's going to score here. So I like him a lot for cash plays. I was surprised I went with the rookie running back, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
But he's just going against the worst run D last year, and I don't think they've gotten much better. So and he's kind of priced cheaply.
And that was a game you're looking to stack, you said.
Yep.
You like the San Francisco-Carolina game.
Yep. And he's more of a guy that I like coming back on the other end, so I'll stack some San Francisco players and have Christian McCaffrey on the other side.
A guy you don't have on this list, running back for San Francisco, Carlos Hyde. What are you thinking about him? Are you playing him in a stack? You wanted to stack that game. What are your thoughts on him going against Carolina's pretty good defense?
Yeah, he wasn't my top 4 option here, but he would have made my top 10 list.
Okay.
You've seen what he's done in week 1s in the last 2 years. There's not that much depth behind him because there is injuries. Joe Williams got injured. So I think he would actually be another nice play. He's pretty cheap. I think he's in the 4,500 range. So, he's a nice option. Another nice option for you could also be C.J. Anderson. He's priced around the same price point there. But the guy I like the most for his value and how much points I think he's going to put up is Bilal Powell. That defense is not that good. Let me pull up my little stats here.
For Buffalo?
For Buffalo. So, last year, Week 17, he rushed for 122 yards on 22 carries, had 19.7 DK points against them in Week 17. Buffalo also gave up the second most rushing TDs at 21 last year.
But you're not sure what you're going to get from Buffalo. Brand new coaching staff there. I mean, it's going to be different. I mean, you wonder how they're going to perform and if their defense is going to be any better than it was last year.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Another guy, Todd Gurley, he's going to be highly owned. He's going against Indianapolis. He's 6K. I've touched on Todd Gurley a lot. I don't think he's looked good in the last year or even the preseason film. He didn't look good. But, I mean, if he doesn't get it done against Indy, he's probably – I mean, you need to trade him right away in your season.
Well, that's the hot stack. Everyone's looking at the Los Angeles Rams. They're going, let's stack the Rams against the Colts. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's where you go contrarian and stack Colts.
Yeah, I agree with that a little bit, too. You could go with Tolzien, even Hilton, and Doyle.
Well, and people are really doubting Scott Tolzien's ability, but when he's played, he's shown he can put up fantasy numbers.
Yeah,
I mean, he got
fantasy numbers.
Fantasy numbers. It might not get the Colts to a win, but there was a game a couple years ago for Green Bay that he put up good fantasy numbers, and he has done it with the Colts in the past.
Last year he had, I think, the one game he started, he had 230 yards passing, 1 TD, and 2 interceptions. Yeah, 2 interceptions.
Take the interceptions off the board. It's a nice play at a low value
and a low cost. Yep.
So, and low exposure.
Yep.
So, jumping over to the wide receivers, who are you going to look at?
So the wide receivers I'm going to have on this list that we'll have up here is going to be receivers I didn't really have that much stack.
Okay.
So it's going to be just separate players. Calvin Benjamin, he was just too cheap. He had a good preseason. He's going to be highly owned. Zay Jones, I mean, he's the wide receiver number 2 in that Buffalo Bills. He's 3,500.
Yeah, and if you're predicting the Jets to be winning that football game, then the Bills are going to have to throw the football.
Exactly. Marquise Goodwin, he's part of that stack for San Francisco that you can maybe do. He's a wide receiver number 2 for 3,200. That's really cheap, and for a guy who's a big play guy, he could pay off for you.
Yeah, and I'm really curious for San Francisco, Pierre Garçon. I'm wondering how they're going to use him in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I'm wondering if they're going to get him a lot of touches. Yeah. I saw a prediction that he might get 160 targets
Yeah, I mean,
and maybe
see it,
or more than that. It wasn't targets. It was 160 receptions. Excuse me.
I mean, I could see it, but I mean,
because he's the number one guy in San Francisco, but also then Goodwin's the deep threat. So he's the Deshaun Jackson. If you're doing a Washington Redskins simile, Garcelle's the number one guy, and then Goodwin's going to play that Jackson fly role.
Yep. So I don't mind that for a guy that can score big. You got Cooper Kupp there as well. He's a starter. They like him there. He could be a guy that just gets you 15 points. I don't know if he scores, but he's really cheap. He could have a nice floor for you.
And I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about him. He came out of the scene really early in preseason and then got injured and was kind of held out of some games. Yep. And people have kind of forgot about him. His salary reflects that at 3.7.
Yeah, and a very cheap stack you can maybe go with. I don't know how much I'll do of this. Maybe just 5% is Goff, Kupp, and Tyler Higbee, the tight end there. It's a really cheap stack for you that could have a nice little maybe 40-point floor for you, and then you also don't play Todd Gurley there. You get away from be a little bit more contrarian there. This next player, he's kind of been a hot take for a lot of people, I think, this week, so he's going to be a little bit higher owned than I previously thought at the beginning of the week, is Paul Richardson. He's going against Green Bay. We talked about that. He is a playmaker. He did really well at the end of the year last year, and people like what they see in him. And then Seattle just traded Jermaine Kearse, so that tells you that they have faith in Paul Richardson. A lot of people might be going towards Tyler Lockett and Doug Baldwin, but I think my favorite passing option other than Jimmy Graham for the Seahawks this week is Paul Richardson.
Yeah, and Tyler Lockett, he had a little bit of a leg issue early on in the week, but he was a full participant yesterday at practice. Haven't had any reports so far today of what he's done, but we'll see how he plays as well.
Yeah, he's probably going to get more attention from Green Bay more so than Paul Richardson as well.
So jumping into the tight end game, what are you looking at?
Ooh.
Yeah, give me some of that. I'm not sure what's going on here.
We're switching roles here. My voice is perfect, and Dave's is struggling. That's a first.
I've been yelling at kids on the football field. So
that's true. That's Dave's coaching high school football here. Coach Paultine.
He's a mess.
All right, tight ends. The tight end I like the most here is Zach Miller. People really forgotten about him.
Yeah. And
he was kind of a popular play last year at this time for tight ends. He's priced at $2,800 going against Atlanta, poor pass defense. Mike Lennon's the guy that can't really throw it deep. I would imagine he's going to be checking it down a lot, and Zach Miller's a guy that is going to benefit from that. I think he's one of the lowest priced salaries that could really
2.8, yeah. And I think Miller's probably going to be their number one option in the pass game. With Cam Meredith going down.
Exactly.
He's got to be the top guy that they're looking at. I mean, they've got Kevin White on the outside. Hasn't really got his feet wet in the NFL yet with the injury, so it'll be interesting to see how often they target Miller and also Jordan Howard out of the backfield.
Yeah, exactly. Those are probably my two favorite plays for that offense. A lot of people are talking about Kendall Wright. I get why, but I think Zach Miller is the play here. He's a little bit cheaper, and he's probably going to see more of the target share. Another guy that's reverse of that, who's going to be really highly owned, is Zach Ertz. $3,500. He's too cheap. They set his salary when Jordan Matthews was still there, so that's probably why he's as cheap. He's going against Washington, who was one of the worst against the tight ends last year. So I do like Zach Ertz a little bit, but I think he has a nice floor, probably 12 points for you.
It'll be really interesting to see where the tight ends are after Thursday night when the percentages come out for Kelsey and Gronkowski.
Yeah.
Then I think you'll be able to take an educated guess as to what Ertz is, and then you can figure out where you want to go from there. That's going to give you a lot of options because those are probably the three highest owned tight ends probably on the slate would be my guess.
That's a very, very good call there. I like that. So definitely check out the ownerships on Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski there.
And then figure out the percentages based off of that, and then take a guess at what Ertz is going to be with the low salary.
Yeah.
And then you'll be able to guess where you want to go.
That's smart.
Based on percentages and what you're kind of going for, whether you're going for a cash lineup or if you're going for the home run GPP lineup.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. Another person that I like here is Delaney Walker. He's just a familiar face for Marcus Mariota to throw to, and the offense adds a lot of new weapons. I also I touched on this a little bit, Tyler Higbee going against Indianapolis, 2,600. No one's really going to play him.
Well, I'll talk about another weapon in that Oakland-Tennessee game that you talked about. How about Jared Cook going back against Tennessee? His salary is only $3,300, so it's a very low salary. Cook had, it's a very GPP play. He averaged 10 points last year per game. That was with Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers. But Oakland really hasn't had the type of player that Cook is, that can stretch the middle of the field from the tight end spot. In his last game, he had the big bust out, 20 points in DFS. If he gets going at all, Carr hooks up with him. He only had 3 touchdowns last year, 606 yards, but he's prone to have a big game, here or there. Maybe this is a week where Cook has a big game because everyone's on that Tennessee defense is probably focusing in on Cooper. They're probably figuring out how to stop Crabtree, stop those guys on the outside. Well, then you still have to figure out a way to cover the middle with Cook. Right. So, I mean, Cook might be a sneaky GPP play that's going to have extremely low ownership, probably, in my opinion.
I could see it. I'm going to wait until I actually do see it to probably make that play, but you're right. That is a very, If
you're going to try to hit a home run, I mean, that might be a guy that you play. Because I would be shocked if he had 5% ownership at the tight end position.
That's very true. And a lot of these guys are going to be lower owned. Tyler Higbee and Zach Miller, they're going to be lower owned. I do like Charles Clay a little bit, too. He's, like I said about Delaney Walker, he's a familiar face for Tyrod Taylor to throw it to. And Tyrod Taylor is active. He passes concussion protocol, so just a little side note. Another side note, just going with that, Tyrod Taylor, he could be a nice waiver ad for you because people might have just forgot to draft him because of the concussion, or they just dropped him because they needed to. With Jameis Winston and Jay Cutler all being out, and then some of these top quarterbacks, they have some tougher matchups. I like Tyrod Taylor a lot more than someone like Sam Bradford, who a lot of people have been asking about.
Yeah, and you just kind of glanced over that. That's a big point, though, that Tampa Bay-Miami game is postponed. They will not be playing that this week, so do not have any Buccaneers, do not have any Dolphins, as the state of Florida is trying to deal with Hurricane Irma. So
that made me so mad because I was ready for Jaquiz Rodgers. That was my favorite play.
Well, there's other things going on in Florida right now that are a little bit more important than football.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
So hopefully everyone stays safe down there. Dealing with a lot of hurricanes lately, a lot of cancellations and postponements. Hopefully we don't have to do that next week. That's the second week in a row we've had to talk about hurricanes. So hopefully we can avoid that. Everyone can kind of get back, to their normal lives and get back to just watching football and being an American. Let's just jump into the stacking options. I talked about it briefly, with Cook. You liked Oakland to stack. If you play Carr, Cooper, and Crabtree, that's a stack you'd go with. Maybe you throw Cook in there to get you more salary relief. But if you stack Carr, Cooper, and Crabtree, that's almost a $20K salary at 19.9. They're projected to score 47 points. Pretty good value for the 20 or for the almost 50% of your budget.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the projected points that they have, and the projected point total in that game, it matches up. So they could even see more than that as well. Another one that I liked was the Jets. I touched on. We want to do that drop again. We can maybe say it together. Jets.
We'll have to get used to it. I wasn't sure how it came in.
Neither was I. But this is probably the only week that I'm going to be really targeting Jets players, so we got to embrace it while we can.
They play Buffalo again.
They do play Buffalo again, so we'll see how this one goes, and maybe we'll get them for one more game. But I like McCown, Powell, and I guess Robbie Anderson. The Jets did bring in 2 more passing targets.
They did. Jeremy Curley's back with the Jets.
Surprising for me. That was really surprising. But I just don't think they've been acclimated to the offense enough to really, make a difference in week 1. So I was really hyped for Robbie Anderson this year. But this will probably be the only time I can play him. You look at that, it's 13.3K, and you get 35 points based off projections on that stack. Not too bad for that salary.
Yeah, and who knows if you can hit on that last pick. I mean, I think if you're going to do the stack, McCown and Powell are probably your locks. Anderson, like you said, is your flip. So who knows what if you hit, you can get a home run, maybe get a touchdown over the top, 60-yarder. Then that would go up a lot more.
Yeah, and in a lot of my lineups, I just have McCown and Powell, but I do like to have that last little option in there. We touched on Seattle a little bit. 15.7K for salary and projections about 40, which isn't bad. I don't like it as much so as a Carr, Cooper, and Crabtree. Another one that I do like that people are kind of forgetting about, I think, is Mariota, Rashard Matthews, and Delaney Walker. They're kind of forgetting about Rashard Matthews, who was the number 1 receiver there. Once again, I think he's going to be Mariota's going to throw it to more similar targets.
But here's my caveat to that Titans point. Marcus Mariota was statistically the best passer in the red zone last year. He did not throw a single interception in the red zone. last year. They're adding Eric Decker.
Yeah.
Second best red zone receiver statistically in the NFL.
Yeah.
So you pair those guys up together,
yeah.
Decker could be a touchdown vulture in Tennessee, and he gets
on
yardage too
for Murray and Henry as well. So
he gets yardage too, but he might be a vulture to those other guys, like you said, the running backs, Murray and Derrick Henry, but also to Matthews and possibly Delaney Walker. That will cut into his value too, I think. So, I mean, you might want to just stack Decker in there instead of Matthews, but he may be higher owned.
Yeah, that was my thing, is I think Matthews, he's a little bit cheaper and he's going to be a little bit lower owned. But you could even do those two receivers and leave out Walker as well if that's something you want to do, or maybe just do Mariota and Decker. We touched on this one a little bit for a cash floor. I really like this play. It's Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Freeman. 22.4 salary. That's kind of a lot here. That's the most we have on this list. But they give you a 51-point projection, and I think it would be a little bit higher than that. It's probably more like a 60-point.
Yeah, that's a good floor to start any cash lineup off with. Is that Atlanta stack?
Yeah, and
sorry, Elliot. That's not going to be good news for your Chicago Bears.
Are my Bears that bad?
I just think they're playing a really good team. I mean, Atlanta went to the Super Bowl last year and had the game almost in the bag.
How good is the defense, would you say?
Their front seven's okay. Behind that is nothing.
Okay, so that's why I like Freeman, because he's involved in the pass game.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the Bears are just going to have a really tough time shutting down Atlanta's offense. I really think that's probably one of the top three, if not the top offense in the NFC.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I like that call. So the last stack that I want to touch on is probably my third favorite is Wentz, Ertz, and Torrey Smith. 12.7K salary and about a 37-point projection. I like that. That's the cheapest one here, I think. Yeah, it's even cheaper than the Jet stack. So, and that's, I mean, you can really see where that one comes from, though.
So let's jump away from the offense on DFS. Let's jump into the defense. Who are some defenses that you're looking at?
So the way I like to do it is, just for this format at least, telling you guys, I'm going to give you one high option, one mid-tier, and one low-tier. Obviously, there's other teams mixed in there, but my favorite high-tier defense was Houston going against Jacksonville. We've seen how Blake Bortles is playing this preseason against backups. It hasn't been good. I believe they're going to, you had the two pass rushers there. I think they're going to pressure him a lot. So I like Houston as my favorite defense. They'll probably score the most points. Blake Bortles hasn't been playing with confidence.
So, and then going back to last year, Bortles against Houston, in a game they lost 20-21. Bortles 12 of 28, completed only 42% of his passes, had one interception. He only scored 8 points. That was in Week 15. And then going back to Week 10, a little bit better for him, 19.7. This was a home game for them, 32 of 49, so they were trailing much of that game. 265, 2 touchdowns. 1 interception. He did lose a fumble in that game, too. So he hasn't been great against Houston. And don't forget about Houston. Guess who they've got back this year?
J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt, arguably one of the best defensive players who missed most of last season.
Maybe the best NFL player right now.
So that cannot help Blake Bortles at all.
No. We touched on the mid-tier defense a little bit. A lot of people are going to be playing this one. I don't know how much I like it, actually. I kind of want to flop from this one now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, but the LA Rams going against Indianapolis, they are going against Scott Tolzien. A lot of people are going to like that pick. Now that I'm thinking about it a little bit more, I think I might want to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers going against Cleveland. The Steelers, they look like they were playing a lot better during the preseason. Even their starters, their backups were playing a lot better. So that's, maybe I'm reading into the preseason a little bit too much for the Steelers, but they're going against Cleveland, who, I mean, Cleveland's getting a lot of hype for a team that's maybe going to have 5 wins.
Yeah, and that seems like a cash play to me. I think a lot of people are going to be
for the Rams.
No, for the Steelers. I think a lot of people are going to see Cleveland. They're going to see Deshaun Kaiser. They're going to see the rookie quarterback. They're going to go, okay, yeah, Pittsburgh. They always beat Cleveland. I think Roethlisberger's only lost twice ever in his career to Cleveland. So, I mean, chances are the Browns are going to score a lot of points.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to be more high owned there? The LA Rams or the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, those are probably the top 2 owned, I would think. I mean, because they're defense, a lot of people's strategy for defense is just stacking against bad offenses. Yeah. It's not necessarily going and getting teams that put up points. So, I mean, I don't know. It's probably a 50-50 to me on which one's a higher owned. I mean, obviously it is.
Yeah.
But I really don't see an advantage one way or the other. I think the Steelers are probably the better play, like you said.
Yeah. And then just for a low tier option, I always kind of like to have a low tier option. And I think, honestly, I'm going full Jets this week for some reason. They scored I need to get better at that. But they had 19 points week 17 against the Bills. That was without LaShawn McCoy. But you know that the Bills have lost some of their offensive weapons from last year. So I think that this is a nice play for the Jets.
Just kind of piggyback off of defense. We talked a lot about Philadelphia's defense in the preseason. They're sitting at 2-7. They're on the road at Washington. But like we talked about, I think Philadelphia had forced the most turnovers in the preseason. They're going to give up points.
Yep.
But if they can turn the football over, that's how you get big money, big points in DFS. Is your defense getting fumbles, getting interceptions, and maybe even scoring touchdowns.
And them and the Vikings, you saw last year, they're kind of two teams that if they get turnovers, they're probably going to score on those turnovers. They're they're just tournament options that you should have a little bit of exposure to each week.
Yeah, and then going forward, we're going to be able to get you more guys that are a little bit under the radar as we kind of see how
how stuff develops.
How the stuff develops and how percentages are kind of playing out. Minnesota's a team we didn't talk about at all.
No.
Even though I could see that there could be some plays there. I like Thielen.
There's just a lot of question marks.
Yeah, but I still like Adam Thielen for the Vikings. I think him and not Matt Bradford, Sam Bradford have a really good connection.
Yeah.
And if you're going to play a Vikings receiver, I think it's Thielen.
I think if I want to play any Vikings player, it would probably be Thielen.
And New Orleans, historically, not great against the pass.
They got a lot better at the end of the year last year, and I think that's something a lot of people don't really realize. They're going towards Sam Bradford a lot more than they should.
So that'll be an interesting game, too. Adrian Peterson returning to face his former team.
I do like that storyline. That's like a lot of people are going to use that storyline in DFS, and I get it. I'm going to stay away from it, I think.
Yeah, and if you want to play it, I think I like to do the contrarian. Everyone's going to pick Peterson.
Yeah.
If you're playing in that game, so why not Mark Ingram?
Yeah.
I mean, are they just going to stop giving Mark Ingram the ball now that they have Adrian Peterson?
They kind of they try to do that, but he proves them wrong
every time.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they try to get guys in there that are try to displace him, and every time he comes out and he's the guy that's the lead back.
Okay, I got a storyline question for you here. So you got Ezekiel Elliott. He's going to be mad because of the suspension. You got Antonio Gates going for that touchdown record. You got AP going against his former team, and you got Lacey going against his former team. Which of those players, I guess take Gates out of it because he might score a touchdown, but he probably won't have that many points. Which of those players scores the most points?
Scores the most points?
It's probably Zeke, but Rawls has been banged up.
Probably Zeke. I mean, Zeke's the stud in that list. So.
Okay, take Zeke out. That was kind of easy. Lacey or Peterson?
Probably Lacey.
Yeah, I mean, Rawls is banged up. So
and
Rawls is out.
Minnesota's got a good run D.
Exactly.
So, I mean, Green Bay doesn't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, I don't know.
Both those coaches are kind of people that want to stick it to you.
I hope if it's for fantasy reasons, I hope it's Lacey because I've got him, and I hope it's not Peterson because I've got Ingram.
You got Ingram.
That draft that I didn't show up to. That's what you get. I found out I drafted Russell Wilson in the first round.
It was an auction draft.
It was an auction draft. So it was Mike Evans and then Russell Wilson.
I really don't mind that, though. Russell Wilson's going to have a nice little comeback year.
I don't know why you take him in the first round of an auction draft, though. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Eric, who are some players' salaries that didn't make sense to you this week?
Yeah, so some of them we touched on a little bit here, but Carlos Hyde is too cheap. Amir Abdullah as well. Rob Kelly. Wendell Smallwood. He's a guy I like. I think he's going to be the cheapest option you can go for running back. That'll still get you double-digit points. And then also C.J. Anderson. I like him a lot more and more as I look at him. They're banged up in that Denver backfield. 46 is his price, or 4.6 is his price right now. And he's kind of the only option. He looked good at the start of the year last year. He looked really good at the start of the year last year.
And that was, I kind of just lost my train of thought there. What were you talking about?
That was just player salaries that didn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah, I have no idea. I totally lost my train of thought. I was moving on to something else, and I don't even remember what we were talking about.
All right, so you want to do our cocky plays of the week? I kind of touched on mine, but I want to tell you my favorite play.
Is it a play or is it a team? Just the play?
I'll go with the play.
Okay, you do your play.
And it's mostly because I want that sound bite, my sound bite.
Okay.
So can we get that?
Oh.
Eric? You're going to give the company to Eric? He is a bad, bad man.
Well, let's hope so for your sake.
Yeah. So Bill Powell.
Okay, that's your bold play of the week.
Top 3 running back this week.
Oh, wow, that is a bold play.
Yeah.
Mine's not going to be a cocky play, but it's going to be my survivor play.
Okay.
Sorry, Elliot, I'm taking the Falcons this week. I'm crossing Atlanta out, even though they're on the road. I think Atlanta's going to go into Chicago, and they're going to get the W in that game.
So what is your take on me picking the Jets over the Bills? Do you think I should wait until they play them at home? Or, see, my thinking is, like, in a survivor pool, you're never really going to play the Jets again.
Well, here's my thing, too. With a survivor pool, you don't necessarily, like, it doesn't matter. You don't get extra points for an upset.
No, you don't. You don't.
I mean, you just keep a better team around longer. You don't necessarily have to get to the, 18th best team in your survivor pool. You just have to beat everyone else out. So if everyone else is out by week 10,
that's true.
You play the top 10 teams, in the NFL based on the worst matchup every week. Chances are you're not going to double up.
Yeah.
Stay in as long as you can each week. Pick the best, no matter what it is. Even if unless it's one that counts the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless it's one of those, and if it's just regular season, just pick the team that is the better team, the best team that's playing the worst team, and just go with it. Okay. Even if it's New England, go with it. If it's the Packers, go with it. If it's Atlanta, go with it.
Okay.
If whatever that matchup is in your mind, the best team versus the worst, the best matchup. That's what I'm going with. That was kind of my strategy, I guess, for survivors.
Okay.
I want to stay in as long as I can.
Are you doing? For that, I guess some are different. Is it when you use a team, they're done?
They're out.
Okay.
For a lot of those. But you have to be careful. If you're doing a survivor pool, make sure you know if it's postseason. Because if it's not postseason, then you might want to hold on to teams like Atlanta.
Yeah.
You might want to hold on to the Patriots. You might want to hold on to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
These teams that are usually in the playoffs, you might want to hold on to them because there's only going to be eight teams, so you're gonna have to really kind of measure it out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what they'll do is they'll give you another pick back for the playoffs, so you just kind of have to see what your rules are. But that's kind of my philosophy with Survivor. I've done it both ways. I try to be smarter than everyone in the room and have like the team with the low ownership that I think is gonna win.
Yeah.
But then if they don't win, you're out, and you got out because you picked the Jets over the Bills. It's like, really? Like, that's what you want to go out on?
If they were at home, I would think I would be going with the Jets over the Bills.
But why, though? I mean, there's no need to. You might never have to play the Bills or the Jets all year. There's only 17 weeks to pick. There's 32 teams.
Yeah, I guess. But maybe. I guess. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, let everyone else make the mistake.
Yeah.
You just keep doing you. You keep picking the right, the good picks. Let everyone else.
I might have to go with the Falcons now.
And if you get beat on an upset, you get beat on an upset.
True.
I mean, that just is what it is.
Yep.
I mean, no one saw it coming. I don't know. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, I like that take then.
So I don't have much more. Do you have anything left over here?
I think we're pretty good. That was kind of a shorter episode. Once we post this video, make sure to go on our Twitter feed, like and retweet it. That really helps us get more views. And then as well, we'll post it on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like that as well. Maybe leave a comment on either Twitter or YouTube of what you want more. And just tell us kind of how you're feeling. A lot of people got in their questions this week. Just keep that up. I'll get to them. We'll get to them as frequently as you can. We'll try to post them. So, yeah, keep that up.
Sounds good. Well, good luck, everybody. Quick note, I guess, from me. Go into DraftKings, go into FanDuel. There's a lot of free contests going on right now in week 1.
Check overlay. Wait, what time is it?
Get bids in there. You might have missed it if you haven't already put it in. I should have reminded you sooner. But there are a lot of free contests that you can enter, and then you don't have to put your lineup in today. You can put them in on Sunday
and
when you know percentages. And then you can play the GPP percentages like we talked about.
Yep.
So with those free contests, go for the home run because if you pick a solid lineup, there's going to be a lot of people who pick a solid lineup. Go for the home run. Go for something crazy. It's you're not losing any money, so just go for it.
And a lot of these contests, too, well, not a lot, but there are contests out there where you play week 1 and they go the whole season, so you can win some good money just by staying on top of it. So that's something I also like as well.
All right, so hopefully everyone has good luck this week. We'll be back next week with week 2, and we'll kind of go over what we got right and what we missed in week 1 of the NFL season.
So we won't have much of the wrong part.
I hope not.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, we'll see you later.